Welcome to the quick guide of the third tab, which is about transformations. And as for the other tabs, I will take you through all the functions which are on this tab, just from left to right, so that you get an idea of what they are doing and how to use them. So the first functionality is the add icon functionality, and as it says, it's an easy way to add an icon when you need it on your slide. So you can just click on add icon. Then you are already asked which kind of icon you're looking for. For example, I'm looking for a star, and instead having the need to go to Google or such, you will guide it to Flaticon, which is one of the best resources on the internet regarding icons. And as you can see here, there are more than 5,000 star icons available. Just click the one you like, then click on download, click on free download, and then you can just drag it into your presentation, adjust the sizing to your needs, drag it down, and you're done. One important thing is that you also have to add the link or the contribution to the author, where you can just copy the link and paste it down here as picture source. Similarly, you can also add pictures to your presentation. Once you click there, you could also specify what you're looking for. For example, I'm looking for a team picture. This will take you to a pre-selected Google search, where you please pick the first one, which will guide you to pixels. And there you can just pick one of the pictures displayed. When you have a bigger browser screen, you can also specify if it should be portrait or landscape mode, but let's take just this one. Let's select or adjust the sizing. I think this is good for me. Then click on download. Once it's downloaded, you can just drag it into your presentation, and there you go. And just like for the icon, please make sure that you are copying the reference to the author and paste it to your presentation. So this is how you can quickly add pictures and icons to your presentation. Regarding populated agenda, I will come back in the end, because this is better demonstrated once you have spoken about all the other topics and see how this works in real life. So now we're going to have a look on the clean formatting functionality, which starts with the bevel. The bevel is just the steepness of your arrow. So for example, you see this is very low bevel here, and this has a very high bevel, and it's really complicated to adjust them correctly by hand. As you can see here, you think that this matches, and quite frequently it's not the perfect match, so you're slightly off and it just doesn't look right. In such cases, just select the shape with the master bevel first, then select all the other shapes, and then just say harmonize bevel. And as you can see here, the bevel will be set the same for all your shapes. So this is about harmonizing the bevel. And when you say, okay, I need to adjust the bevel, you would normally have to adjust each shape separately. Instead, you can just increase or decrease the bevel with clicking on those two icons. Next one about clean formatting is adjusting the line spacing. This is just to shortcut the process of going to line spacing and then adjusting the line spacing to your needs. Instead, you can really just have here being line spacing increased by the increment of 1, which also speeds up your process of layouting it in a proper way. Then we come to rotation, and you may have encountered that rotating icons is a bit tedious because it's almost impossible to rotate it to the right amount. Of course, you can use the shift key, but not everybody's aware of this. Instead, you can just use the rotation by 45 degrees. So the shape will be always rotated by a multiple of 45 degrees. And the good thing about this is that even when you have a shape which is not a multiple currently of 45 degrees, if you rotate it, it will match the next 45 degree multiple, and then you just in the right sizing, and then it's rotated by 45 degrees each. So this is about rotation to the left and to the right. Then you'll find one functionality about circles and correcting them, because maybe it's not very obvious, but those circles are not completely rounded. You can see here, this one is higher than its wide, and those are wider than they are high. And just this one has the same height and the same width. So this is a perfect circle. So to correct those circles, just mark them and then go to correct circles. And by this, both dimensions will be set to the same value. So, and it's always the minimum value of both dimensions. So those will be set to 1.3 and those will be set to 1.38. And this is just a very efficient way to correct all your circles on one slide. Similarly, quite frequently happens that lines are not completely straight, but have some kind of distortion in them, and that the end is a bit below the starting point. And for such cases, you can use the rectify horizontal line, which will then rectify it and make it a complete straight line. And the same can be done for vertical lines. Just select it and then click it, and then the line becomes completely straight. So these were the clean formatting functionalities. Next functionality is about relative sizing. Relative sizing means that you have one shape which has the and the other shapes should be matched in width. You could either use the master shape functionality, or you can just when you don't want to make sure that you're selecting in the right order, just use the relative sizing of the shape. So here you can say, I want to match the maximum width, so the width of the widest shape, and as you can see here, all other shapes will be matched the width of the widest shape. This is not only done horizontally but also vertically, and it's also possible not to only match the maximum but also the minimum. So let's do this for the match the minimum height, and as you can see here, this was the minimum height and the other shapes were matched to this easily. So it is about the relative sizing, because you always size other shapes relative to the existing maximum or minimum value. Next functionalities are about language and text boxes. And the first one is quite frequently required but very rarely well established, and it's about set the proofing language. So when you have a slide and you run and the slide is set to English, and you have, for example, one table in it, and when you click in a table you see that the language inside of the table is not English but German. And in such cases, when you would run a spell check for this slide, so let's do this then, you will see that it highlights English words as not correct. So, and this happens to further slides, to further shapes. To remove this malfunction, you can just set the proofing language either for all slides if you're sure that the complete presentation should be in English, or you can apply it just to the selected side, which I will go with. And of course, I have to specify which language I'm using. So let's say I'm using English US. You can pick it from a list, which are the available languages, but for the time being, I would go with English US. And now once you've done this, you see that even when you're clicking in your table, the language there will be English. And this is a very efficient way also to set the language or default language for a complete presentation. This was the set proofing language. Then you have also the split and merging text functionality, which is basically needed when you have a huge text box and you say, I want to edit them differently. So here you can use the split text functionality, which will split up this text box into separate text boxes. And you'll get one text box for each paragraph, so to say. And then you can just pull them away from each other, layout them differently, or just align them. And this is a very fast way instead of copying, duplicating, or doing something else with your text box. And of course, you can work the other way around, which is then merging text, that you just have to make sure that the text box is in the right order. Otherwise, they will also be mixed in the sequence you've selected them, and just press on merge text, which will then bring those text boxes back together in one big text box. So this is about split and merging text. Then you will have three text editing or text box editing functionalities. So just imagine you get a presentation from a colleague or a customer and text formatting is really messed up. You have bold where it shouldn't be bold, different coloring and odd word numbering, underlining and such. And in such cases, just select the text box and say remove text formatting, and you have a clean sheet to start with. And then you can apply your own formatting, for example, having those dots and just making the first item bold and the other one not. So this is about the remove text formatting. Second functionality is about resetting a text box. And as you can see here, for example, you have a text box and you want to align it to this line and you move it to the very left. You still have some kind of spacing between the icon and the left hand side of the text box. And this is quite frequently that this happens and you want to remove this so that the icons and the line are perfectly aligned. In such cases, just say reset text box, and this removes every inner padding and distance, and as you can see here, now both are completely aligned to the left. Lastly, regarding language and text, it might happen that PowerPoint adds the line breakings by its own and it's not in the way you want it. In such cases, you can just say remove line breaks, and then you can start setting line breaks to your needs. So this is about the language and text functionality, and the last function is then about swapping shapes and formatting, which is a very handy tool when you have some kind of sequence, for example, and you say happy user shouldn't be first but should be third. In such cases, just mark both of them and say swap shapes, and same applies to the text. So now they've swapped the places, and what's not to forget about, that we also have to swap the scales, which is also very easy then. And what's even more supporting your work is that you can also swap formatting. So for example, that you say now the focus should shift from the happy user to the automation of workflows, and in such cases you can just select those two, say swap formatting, and as you can see here, formatting will be switched between those two, and of course we need to do this for the icon as well, and this is how it then looks like. So this is about the swapping functionality, which gives you a very powerful tool to just replace the two items by each other. So as I said, in the end, I want to come back to the populated agenda, because quite frequently you have some kind of structure laid out in your agenda, and you usually want to repeat it prior to each section. So for example, you have introduction section, then you have background, then you have approach and timing, team, and financials, for example, for usual proposal. You normally then start with copying it, pasting it, graying out stuff, and saying this is first, and then just forgetting the numbers, and then doing this for the next part, and so on and so on. And this is a very time-consuming way to do it. Instead, you just have to make sure that your agenda is laid out as a table, or your contents are laid out as a table. If this is done, you can click on Populate Agenda, and you then ask, do you want to create sections automatically? I go with no for the time being. I'll show you this in the end. And when you click then yes, you will see that in the end, individual slides for each sections were added, and that each section is highlighted in the flow. And this then gives you a very good, a very fast way to then structure your document, and you can start dragging your slides at the right position. So those slides would go there, these go there. Just reduce size a bit, so this is better. These go here, and all the remaining slides go at the very end. I've just forgotten one section. So just to give you an idea that now you move from this to the first section, then comes some slides, then comes next section, and so on and so on. And why this is good? This is already a very good way to spare some time. But even more important is that when you change something in your agenda, you would then start changing it in every agenda slide. Not now, because introduction and let's say welcome. And as soon as you change something in your agenda core slide and then press on populate agenda, we go with no sections again, and you see that the heading was changed for every agenda slide. So this is again a very fast way to keep track and to be very professional when it comes to agenda. And lastly, as you have seen, you get the chance to also create sections based on your agenda. Maybe you are not familiar with sections, you will see it in a moment, but once you click yes, you just have to specify in which column your content is located. For me, it's not the first column because those are just the numbers, but the second column. So if I say column 2, you will then see that for each section of your agenda, a new section was added, and this becomes even more clearer when you jump to the slide overview. So automatically it took the heading from each section and put it as a section heading. And this is a very easy and fast way. So you just have to set up your agenda and then let the program do the rest for you regarding structuring your presentation. And of course, even when you change the naming here, the naming of the section will be changed as well automatically. So this is about the populated agenda, which is a very powerful functionality and will save you a lot of time and hassle. So those were the functions on the third tab. And yeah, so let's have a look on the fourth tab then as well.